Let me move on to our sermon now, and it is in celebration of our volunteers. I've titled our sermon for today, By the Rivers of Babylon. Those of you who are closer to my age, I can hear you celebrating that song. Do you remember that song by Bonnie M? All right? That song is actually picked from a psalm. It is Psalms 137. It says, By the Rivers of Babylon. I'd like to read that, please. If you are there, you may want to turn to Psalms 137 as we look at some thoughts concerning the rivers of Babylon. The Bible says this, Psalms 137, verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars, we hung our harps. For there our captors asked for us songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, sing for us one of the songs you sang in Jerusalem. But how can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. If I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. Daughters of Babylon, doomed for destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done for us. Happy is he who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. This psalm is very sad. What happened is that one day, years after King Hezekiah had bragged to some visitors from Babylon, where Nebuchadnezzar was leading, when Hezekiah was given 15 more years by God to live, he went and he showed some visitors the treasures of Israel. And the prophet Isaiah came to him and he told him, who are those people coming and what is it that you showed them? And Hezekiah said, I showed them all the treasures of Israel. I showed them our prowess and the strength of our army and all the treasures that we have. And in prophecy, Isaiah told him, a day is coming when the king of Babylon will come and seize our city and burn it to the ground, and will be taken as captives to a foreign land. After that prophecy, the Israelites started taking God for granted. The warnings which God was sending over, that one day your city is going to be torn down, they didn't listen. Nebuchadnezzar came down 3 generations down in the time of Daniel, and he razed down Jerusalem and picked out everyone and burned the city and took their choicest people, the young people, he took them down to Babylon. When they reached Babylon, it was a big city. But the thing about Israel was that Israel was a proud nation. They were the nation of God. They were the people God had picked just for himself. So their tormentors started taunting them. They said, you people, we used to hear you singing your songs of deliverance in Israel. And we're intimidated by you. Why don't you sing those songs now? Sing them, we see. In other words, they were telling them, the great Jerusalem has finally fallen. You know the thing which the Israelites had forgotten? They had forgotten to serve their nation. They had forgotten to serve God. They started to serve themselves. And God came one day and he told them, look at the houses you are building for yourselves. Look at the paneled homes you are building for yourself, and the temple of God remains in ruins. They didn't listen. When you stop serving your nation, you stop also praying for it. And when you stop praying for it, you remove its security, which is God. You remove it. The greatest security you can give your home, you can give your church, and you can give your nation is to serve it. is to serve it. Because when you serve, then you pray. Then you pray for it. I can promise you. Somebody said here about gap fillers or seat fillers. If all you do is come and sit and bench warm and go home, and you know very little of what the church actually does, you know very little of what the leaders actually do, you know very little of what the mission of the church is. If somebody asked you, what does this church do? What does it believe in? And you're like, it is something like growing wide to go deep. It is something like that. If you can't explain that, then I promise you, I guarantee you that neither do you pray for the church. I can guarantee you. If you don't know its mission, then you can't pray. And if you can't pray, then your place on the wall is missing, where God expects to see you. That was the condition of these people. Their mockers started to taunt them. They say, you used to boast to be a great nation. So now they were filled with regret, deep regret about opportunities that they lost. From that captivity, it would be 70 years before they went back to Israel. Can you imagine? 70 years through King Cyrus, who took them back. Nelson Mandela, in his book, Conversations with Myself, he says, regret is the worst emotion in the world. The worst. C.S. Lewis says that regret is the emotion of hell. It is when you die one day and your memory is with you and you are not with God and your mind is filled with emotions of regret because you remember opportunities that were lost, things you could have done, where you were, with what you have, and you didn't do it. Time that was wasted. Service opportunities that missed. When God spoke to you about serving and you missed the opportunity. When you say tomorrow, 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 and tomorrow never came. When you spend time serving yourself instead of serving others. It's the emotion of hell. And it pains like crazy. Our idea today is to challenge us to service by the rivers of Babylon. We want to look at what you can do with what you have, where you are. Is God speaking to you about something? And you're still postponing it. Is God challenging you to something, to do something, and you're still postponing it? Don't be like the Jews. They were asked to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. In Psalms 122, even through a warning, David wrote this: I rejoiced with those who said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. Our feet are standing in your gates, Jerusalem. Jerusalem is built like a city that is closely compacted together. That is where the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, to praise the name of the Lord according to the statute given to Israel. There stand the thrones for judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Pray, verse 6, for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you be secure. May there be peace within your walls and security within your citadels. For the sake of my family and friends, I will say, peace be within you. For the sake of the house of our God, I will seek your prosperity. That is our challenge today. We want to celebrate those who serve. We want to celebrate for those of you who sign up to go for a mission, who sign up to lead in a space of another. We hear time after time after time when we call you up and ask you, can you do this? Some of the people who we're going to celebrate today, some of you came trembling. You said, I've never done this before, but you took the courage to try. And after some time, we celebrate what God has done through you. God is not expecting that you'll know everything when he calls you. He's not expecting that you'll be the most qualified person when he calls you. But in saying yes, God then qualifies you as you go. And that is our story. And we celebrate you for it. My mother used to love sending us. Is your mother like that? She used to send us for anything, anything. My mother would scream my name, and I'm playing with my friends outside, and she wants me to just look for the remote of the TV that has fallen under the seat, right where she is seated. Mothers are often like that. They like sending. But my mother, once in a while, she used to throw out a test. She'd come from work very tired, and then she would say, which of my children is going to massage my feet today? And it was a hard job to do that, because you are watching TV or you are doing something, and so reluctantly we'd be telling ourselves, today is your turn, you go. Today is your turn, you go. So one of those days I was pushed and I was told, it's your turn, you go. And I entered my mom's bedroom, and she said, actually, I don't want my feet massaged. Close the door. And I closed the door. And she said, because you're the one who showed up, she removed a box, and it had chocolate cake. And another box had a watch. And let me tell you, it was a big cake. So because we were 7 kids, and we used to stay with our cousins all the time, everything was for sharing. So I knew that mine was going to be like a small piece that I'm going to share. She told me, close the door, eat it here and finish. Hey, mothers are great, aren't they? She told me, Malisa, I ate and I finished. I made sure there's like a piece here left so that my brother could see how I'd been eating. And then she told me, wear the watch. And I wore the watch and I was walking like this. Everyone. I was the star of the day. And my mother came and she said, because he has light feet for being sent, these are the rewards you get. It was a challenge to the rest of us. God loves people who are light-footed. You know, that God calls you to do hard things. But it's not always. It's not always. God is a rewarder of those who seek him. When you are light on your feet and you rush into God's house, when God calls you to do something, you never know when God will tell you, close the door, my child, today. Leo ni mimi na wewe. And God gives you something you don't deserve. God is like that. I celebrate you, congregation. There are many of you who silently, I know how hard you pray for this church. There are those of you who do stuff and you never want anybody to know your name. We celebrate you. We celebrate those of you who come up and we call you up and you say, I'm going to do it. I'll do it because you've asked. It's not my gift, but I'll do it. You serve in e-groups, you serve in missions, you serve in Quest, you serve in 3D. We celebrate you, each and every one of you. This message goes to a person who, even you know that you're disobeying. You know that God has been speaking to you. You are gifted. You are trained. You are talented. You look around and you know that this is my space. But for some reason, you are sitting on your gift. I don't want you to reach some place in the future. You know, you'll not always be in this church. That one day God will tell you, why didn't you serve when I gave you the opportunity? I don't want the enemy to taunt you one day and to tell you, why don't you sing for us those songs for NCOR when you have the opportunity and you don't even know one song. Don't let the devil laugh at you like that. If God is speaking to you, decide in 2018 that you will not be a bench warmer. You will not just sit there and watch other people do things that you have the experience and the education and the talent to do. Take up your space because it honors God when you do it. There's no one who God calls who is qualified in themselves to do it. No one. But God qualifies you as you go because your place on the wall can only be taken by you. Don't let God ask you, why didn't you listen to me? And God speaks in a still, small voice. And so today, we'll call up those of you who we want to celebrate, who serve in our ministries. It's December, so I know that not everyone may be here, but we will celebrate you anyway. And we would like to take time now to do that. I'm going to invite Zach.